Good evening, and welcome to the Let's Talk Destiny Talk Show. I am so honored tonight to have a young man who I am really impressed with. He is an author and a poet and a father and so many other things, but I've been watching him on social media and following him a little bit, and I have really been blessed by him. And so this month, our theme here on Let's Talk Destiny has been from formulation, to fruition. And so I wanted to have him come and talk to us a little bit about living out his dream and birthing some things that I feel will encourage some other people who may be kind of sitting on a fence with some things, some ideas, some dreams, some visions, things that you have inside of you, but you're kind of like afraid to push it a little further. And I wanted him to come tonight to share his experience and just encourage you a little bit to do that. Tonight, my guest is Mr. Ben Burgess Jr., who's author of 5 novels, and as I said, his pen is on fire, and they are award-winning novels. And his dream is to have these novels adapted into major motion pictures, which I definitely believe can happen. One of the things that I was so blessed to read in his bio is that he is an active spoken word poet, and I love spoken word. I always have and always will. Ever since I can remember, I've been writing poetry, sometimes as a way of an escape from what was going on in life and to express how I was feeling, but I just love poetry. And one of the other things that really blesses me that we're going to talk a little bit about is he uses his gifts to inspire our young people. And that's extremely important to me. And a couple of his novels are used in the school systems there in Lower East Side of Manhattan. So tonight we're going to just talk a little bit. I want him to just share with us whatever's in his heart that he thinks will encourage somebody else to push forward to their purpose. And so tonight I welcome to my platform Mr. Ben Burgess Jr. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for agreeing to come. Now, before we get started, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? What things do you like to do? Your hobbies? Tell us about those beautiful girls. Just tell us a little bit about you.
I'm a father first. I have 3 daughters. I guess I was a bad boy when I was younger, but I have 3 daughters. Jalen, Jacqueline, and Jocelyn. Once I had one, I decided to go with the leading scheme at the end. I'm a big fan of basketball. I'm a big fan of, sports in general, basketball, football, boxing, baseball, stuff like that. I'm big into working out and lifting weights and stuff like that. I'm big into writing. Writing is actually my release. I have a very stressful job. I'm a detective for NYPD. And
oh, holy moly.
Yeah. So
no wonder you need a release.
Yeah. So that helps me with my stress. Like writing helps me with my stress. So
okay, and how long have you been writing? When did you realize that this was something that you like to do?
Well, I've been writing since I would say 8th grade. I had a teacher named Miss Ladd Marcus, and one of the assignments was we had to write a poem about something that we loved. And I wrote a poem about basketball. And she loved it so much that she was like, look, you have a real talent for this, and you need to do something with this. So she made me promise that one day I would write a book of poems or something. She's like, you need to do that. So in 2008, I kept my promise and I wrote my first book, which was called Times Has Changed and Life is Strange. And that was a poetry book.
Wow.
From that, I used to, one of the poems in that book was a poem called Ugly, and I used to perform that poem. And a lot of people would come up to me afterwards and they were like, you know, if you made that into a book, that'd be something, that'd be a story. And at the time, like, I didn't consider myself like a writer like that, like a novel writer. I would say two influences that made me into a writer would be Richard Wright and Eric Jerome Dickey.
Yeah.
Richard Wright's Native Son was the book that made me fall in love with books and reading. And Eric Jerome Dickey's Milk and My Coffee is the book that made me want to write so that I can move people the way he moved me with that book. So after, you know, I always made the excuse that I wasn't a novel writer. And I was like, you know, I was tinkering with the book, but I was like, you know, I really don't have the time. I got injured at work and I was out for a while. And I'm like, now I have nothing but time.
Yeah.
What's my excuse? So I worked on my first novel, which was Monster. And with that, I let a few of my friends read it. And they were like, hey, you know, I'm not playing. This is pretty good. So I'm like,
Wow.
you know, you're my friends. So so then I let a few strangers read it. And they were like, you know, this is pretty good. So I reached out to different literary agents and tried to go that route. And here I am.
Wow. So are you with a publishing company or are you self-published?
I started with a publisher in the beginning, but that didn't work out. So then I had self-published and I went independent. And now, years later, I'm published again with Kensington Publishing and Urban Books.
Awesome.
So,
I'm very proud of you.
thank you.
And I want to put this out here while I'm thinking about it. A little while back, a few months back, I have a whole issue with writing novels. I don't know why. Like, I have been writing all my life. I could sit down right now and write a poem. People call me and they say, this is what I need. Can you put it into words for me? Like, my sister's always saying, you have such a gift with words, and I can do that. However, when it comes to a novel, I just freeze up. Like, I have this whole thing about the dialogue. It's like, I don't know how to make people have a conversation, which is ridiculous because I have conversations all day. But when I sit down and write it, it's like, well, she says this, and then she has to say, like, I spend so much time trying to make sure these conversations are going back and forth. What would you suggest that I do?
And I'm going to sound like a huge creeper with this, but like, you have to go, like, you go to a public place, like a park or even the mall, like go to the food court or something, and just listen to the way people talk. Listen to the way people talk, and it'll come from there. Like, you'll be like, yeah, like that is something I would say. And once you start like, oh, that is something, the way people talk, and then you listen to different conversations and different views and stuff like that, and you start to develop your characters like that. You're like, okay, this is how a person like that would talk. This is how this person would talk, and you go from there.
I don't think that sounds creepy at all. I think that's very good advice. I haven't even thought about that. And it's like really weird because I'm an ordained minister, so I'm always talking. It's not like I'm uncomfortable talking. But when it comes to writing conversation between two people, I don't know why. I just have this block with that. Like, it's ridiculous. But anyway, what you just said is very good advice. And I think that someone who will be listening to this recording later may, because I've talked with several friends who are kind of stuck as well. They may not have the same issue that I have, but I'm working with a young lady. I kind of adopted her as one of my daughters. She wants to write a book. And so she's also kind of like, I don't know how to make it flow. And I said, well, the first thing you need to do is just write. Just put down on paper what you're feeling. Now, I can give advice to other people, but then once I start doing it, I'm like, I was told that I'm too busy trying to edit, and that's why I can't write, because I'm keep stopping and trying to fix this and fix that, which is
I have the same problem. Like, I'll tell you. So like, I'm a huge perfectionist with my writing. So when I got signed to Kensington, they were going to re-release all of my novels. But the thing is, they didn't want to release the same old novels. So they were like, hey, we need you to add more like content to your previous works, right? So I, at the time, well, and even currently, I was working on my next novel. So with that, you know, you when you're adding more content to stuff, you see your own flaws and stuff in your previous work. So now this gives you a chance to correct or improve on your previous novels, which like that was definitely something. But like with that, now that I'm writing this novel, like I want it to be even better than all of those novels, and like I'm putting everything into it, and I especially the importance for what this novel is. The new novel I'm working on is called Mothers, and it's about different types of mothers, different dynamics of mothers, and single mothers at that. So the main character is named Juanita, and she is the receptionist that is in my book, Defining Moments Black and White. This is actually her backstory.
okay.
So her husband was hit by a stray bullet when he was coming home from the grocery store, and she didn't have much savings. They, you know, together they were afloat. When he passed, she used all of her money and savings to give him a decent funeral. Now she's living on a single income, and she's raising her two sons. Just when she thought, things were rough, but because she went from a double income to a single income, her youngest son, is diagnosed with leukemia. So now she is a single mother who is trying to, one, pay for her youngest son to survive. She's working a job that she hates, doing all types of overtime, taking him to doctor's appointments and stuff like that. And it's not like she can quit this job or leave this job because she needs the benefits to keep her son alive. At the same time, she's trying to do all of these things, but her able-bodied son, her oldest son, feels neglected, and he's being lured by the street. She can't buy him the Jordans. She can't buy him the video games and stuff like that. So now those people in the street are whispering in his ear, well, you could do this for me and you could make money the easy way, and you could buy those things that your mother can't. So it's showing the strength that she needs to try to balance all of these things. Her friends along the way are another woman named Tracy, who she is also a single mother. Her husband had left her, and she is raising twins on her own. Another character is a woman named Debbie. She's the only white woman in a Black neighborhood, and she has MS. And she's raising her son on her own. He's one of the main characters in Defining Moments. So this is like a part of his backstory too. Okay. But they're all three women. They're all single mothers dealing with being a single mother in different ways. Juanita, the main character in the book, she is a single mother who is a widow. Tracy is a single mother whose husband up and left. And Debbie is a single mother who's dealing with the illness and trying to raise her son and keep him out of trouble. So it's showing the strength of being a single mother and the things that they deal with, and that is a struggle.
I love that, because as you may or may not know, dealing with mothers is is my passion. I actually have an organization called A Mother's Cry. And So when you mentioned that, I just like felt this leap inside of me. I definitely want to keep my eyes open for that book, but I'm going to have to go back first of all and buy all the rest of it because I had intended to do that before this interview. But you know, life happens and I wasn't able to do it, but I'm definitely going to buy a couple of books of your books tonight. Are your books on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, the
Yes.
usual? Okay. Yeah, I definitely will do that because I'm impressed with the fact that your storylines are relative, like people can relate to them, they're relatable and they're realistic, um, outside of just street life. There are a lot of us mothers who are battling, trying to do what we need to do for our children. My oldest son is incarcerated, and that alone is stressful, because it's like they say, not just the inmate does the time, the family does the time.
Mhm.
And so I'm dealing with that. And yeah, so everything you've just said just really touched me. And I know that there are a lot of people in my network that will also be, I'm going to encourage them to be looking for those books, the book as well. Um, do you remember when if there was ever a point in your journey when you were discouraged by people that, or by a person that you anticipated would support your dream? And if so, how did that make you feel?
That still happens to this day. Like, I've won 28 awards for my books,
Wow.
and even to this day, there are people that my fellow friends, people that I like trusted and believed in, who will, I guess they keep me humble because they tell me that I'm not that good, or that they don't understand why my books are doing so well.
Wow.
And while it hurts, you have to kind of examine it to see, one, if it's meant to be spiteful and hurtful,
Yeah.
or two, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be constructive. Like, are they seeing something that I'm not good at that I could work on and improve? As a writer, I always want to improve. I always want to be better. No writer can be true to themselves and believe that their writing style is flawless. Um, in order to be a great writer like that, you have to read other writers, because other writers offer a lot of things. And like, I liked, I loved Eric Jerome's Dickey's dialogue. I felt his dialogue was on point. I felt it was realistic. I loved that. Um, I liked Zane's description.
Yeah.
Zane, the way she would describe certain things, I felt were were on point and great like that. With Carl Weber, I like Carl Weber's topics. Like, Carl Weber picked good topics that I felt like weren't cliche, and I felt like they weren't often used.
Yeah.
So I like that, And you learn from other authors and you try to get better. With dealing with those people, again, that that might discourage you, or do not like your work. Again, you see where it's coming from. If it's constructive and they're trying to help you, then you keep your ear to it and you listen to it and you try to pull something out of it, even though it hurts. You put pride aside and you try to learn from it. If it's meant to tear you down, you take it on the chin and you keep moving, because there are going to be those people that they can't do it themselves, so they're going to try to bring you down, and you can't let that happen.
That's true.
Unfortunately, we still live in an era where there's that crab in the barrel mentality.
Yeah.
So they don't want to see you make it, so they'll try to pull you down to bring you down with them. You have to rise above that and continue to grow.
Absolutely. When you write, do you use personal experiences in your writings, or do you get all of your material from observing other people?
A little bit of both. Um, when you're writing about something that you're passionate about or something that you feel, you could write with more truth to it.
Right, right.
Like with my last book, Defining Moments, there's bits and pieces of me in all the characters. I lived in Queensbridge, so I could write from experience what that felt like for Bill's character. I know what it feels like when people tell you that you're an Oreo and that you're not Black enough, and how that feels. I know what it feels like to be rejected by publishers when you feel like you're writing something that's good and powerful and strong, and unfortunately the publisher doesn't think that way.
Yeah.
I know what it feels like to be a Black cop that people look at and feel that even though like all cops are the same, and that you don't feel any compassion for what the negative things that another cop has done. So I put all of that in my writing. Like I'm a bit of all of my characters, some more than others. But like I watch people, and like if I feel something is important that's needed, I'm like from a friend or a stranger or somebody in passing,
Yeah,
I can use that to write with, and that's what I use for my character bases.
it's powerful. Yeah, wow. I was thinking about, because I was focusing on, I have a very special friend. We've been friends for many, many years, who's also a cop, a Black officer. And he was sharing with me also, especially today in this society, with all the negativity toward cops and what have you, and how so many are just, some of the good cops, I should say, good people, are wanting to just quit because of all of the animosity and hatred, and so we had this conversation where I'm like, I understand what you're saying, and because I know you personally, I know your personality, I know you would never intentionally go out and hurt anybody because of their skin color, or because of where they live. I said, but at the same time, you have to look at what's happening. It's like people are not making this stuff up. It's like it's being recorded, it's being televised. Cops, some of them are bragging about it. So we've got to find a balance somewhere, because of course the media is going to show what is most sensationalized anyway, what will get more looks. But I think it's so important that even in the midst of all of this, that you can be secure in your assignment and your purpose, and continue to do what you feel is right to do, even when other people question that. People, my friends tease me and call me the purpose advocate, because I'm always asking somebody, do you know what your purpose is? Are you living out your purpose? Do you need more understanding about your purpose? Because it took me a long time to figure this out. But when you live your life strictly by somebody else's script,
Plan.
you will just be miserable, because you can never totally live up to everything that they want you to do. So you have to find out what it is that is in your heart to do, and do that. And I think that's one of the things that drew me to you. I remember a few months back, I reached out to you about my son, the one that's incarcerated. He's writing his first book. And it definitely is outside of my realm of being comfortable, because the street language, the vivid sex scenes, I'm reading the manuscript with one eye closed and one eye open, and I'm calling on Jesus, like, oh my God. And even the scenes with the gang members when they're killing people, and the detail is so explicit. And so when he called me, I'm like, oh my holy God, like, why would you send this to me of all people? So he just laughing. And he said, I showed it to my cellmate, and he was like, I know good and well you are not going to send this to your mother. And he was, and he said, I was like, my mom is the only one I can trust to get it taken care of for me. And I was like, Lord Jesus. So I told him, I said, I read a paragraph and then I have to stop and pray. And then I go back and read a paragraph. And he just fell out laughing. But I was trying to find somebody that could edit the book. I don't know if you remember that or not. And I inboxed you about it because you are the only author that responded to my question about editing street lit. Like, and I know lots of authors on social media that write in that genre, but you're the only person that responded. And I don't forget things like that. Like, I just kept thinking about this young man took time out of everything he's doing to respond to me. And that meant a lot to me. And I want to publicly thank you.
No problem.
So let me ask you another question that I want to make sure we talk about before I let you go. You mentioned your love and your passion for young people and youth programs. What is the reason why you are pulled toward working with young people?
Because, not to sound corny, but like the youth is our future. So if we don't reach them, if we want to have a better future, especially for minorities, we have to deal with the youth. And that's really important. You see, like when you think about it, I don't want to get too political, but points that people like Candace Owens and stuff say is, oh, the Black community doesn't have great role models and stuff like that. And I can't stand that woman, but she sprinkles some truth sometimes.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we have rappers and we have entertainers and stuff like that they don't encourage us to be educated. They're like, I didn't go to school and look at me. And the problem, that's part of the problem.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm not saying that everybody has to go to college. Everybody, like, people can, of course, be entrepreneurs. People can, of course, learn a trade, stuff like that. You don't have to necessarily go to college, but you do need to be educated.
That's right.
The reason why I was a big fan of Obama is because he made being smart look cool. You love him or hate him, you might not like his politics or whatever, but he made being smart look cool.
That's
he
right.
Went to prestigious colleges. He had a great family life. He had his wife, he had his kids. He didn't have any scandals.
That's right.
And he was a good example of how a man, and especially a Black man, should be in my eyes. And I feel minority children need to see that. They need to see that I can be more than a rapper. I could be more than a basketball player or a sports player. And I do a lot of talking to community and talking to different people. And whenever I ask, I'm like, hey, I ask the kids, what do you guys want to be? I want to be a basketball player. I want to be a football player. I want to be a rapper. And I'm like, that's great. But what if you're not? Like, what do you want to do? So I try to encourage kids to, one, look into the sciences, like, become a computer programmer, become a lawyer, become something like that. If you can't make it to the NBA, you can still be a sports lawyer.
That's right.
You could write contracts. You could be an agent. You could do a lot of things that's still in that realm.
Absolutely.
I try to tell, I did a little bit of everything. I tried on a lot of shoes in life before I found ones that fit. And it's important for us as a people to grow, to be more than how a lot of society and we're viewed.
Right.
So what I usually do, like, I try to reward the youth by doing an event. So if what I did in the past with the youth and the Department of Education, for those who've done a complete 180 with their school life, if they went from being bad to doing something like to being good with their schooling, I take them to a baseball game and I give them field level seats and I bring them to the game and I pay for everything. Um, I'm not a Rockefeller, but I bring
Yeah,
about
yeah.
I brought about 28 kids, right? And I don't choose them. I have the Department of Education choose them,
Okay.
and I take them to the game because I want them to see with hard work,
Yes.
most times you will be rewarded. And I try to reward that hard work
That's awesome.
because it's not an easy path. It's easy to not go to school. It's
Right.
easy to do things on the street and get caught up.
Absolutely.
But to persevere and do what you're supposed to do so that you can live a prosperous life is hard. So I want to reward that.
Yeah, and I
And
remember
that's
as a mother, I remember one of the most painful uh, things I ever heard. My youngest son said to me, he's 28 now, but somewhere between 12 and 13, we were talking one day, and he just blurts out, "I'm going to jail." And I was like, "Excuse me?" And I'm like, "Why would you say that?" And he just had this look on his face, and he said, "Mom, all Black men go to jail." Oh my God, that like I couldn't even get my words together. Like I can't get them together right now. Like, what in the world? Like, why would he? Where did he get that from? I know he didn't get it from me, and my family members. Like, but it's just the society that that they're raised up in, and you have to have positive role models, like especially those young men that do not have fathers in their lives. My oldest son, his father died when he was 10 months old. And so he never had a relationship with them or that side of the family for whatever reason. And then my youngest son, his father didn't die, but he wasn't a part of his life. And so, we can say all we want, I'm your mom and your dad, but I'm not anybody's dad. I can be the best mother I can be, but I don't know how to be anybody's father. And so I was always praying and asking God to connect me to positive male role models for my boys. They had their grandfather, my dad, but they needed strong male role models that they could relate to. And so I personally want to thank you for what you're doing, because you may take a young man to a ball game, feed him, buy him, some souvenirs, whatever, and you go home in a couple of weeks or so, you got so much going on, you may have forgotten about that. But that has impacted him. He will remember that for the rest of his life, that you took the time out to spend with him, because a lot of them, what they really are looking for is time. And so I appreciate you doing that, and I salute you for doing that. And I'm very impressed with this conversation and more insight into the young man that you are. And I just want to encourage you to just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, I think I'm your passion, your perseverance, your stick to itiveness that I hear people say. I don't even know if that's a word, but I I just am really blessed by what I'm hearing tonight. And I'm so glad that we had this conversation. And I didn't think, I don't know, I was thinking of what else what else would you do other than being an author? Um, and a cop never came to my mind. So I guess my spiritual gift is turned off. No, I'm just playing. But that doesn't even enter my mind. But it's like I'm very impressed with that, and I
So
want you.
I'll tell you about that though.
Yeah, please
So
do.
when I was in the ninth precinct for NYPD in the beginning of my career, and I did a program. I used to do juvenile crime. I was the youth officer in that precinct for I would say 5 years. And one of the things that I was assigned to was I did the Explorer program, which is like sort of like the Boy Scouts for the police department. And I had to recruit some kids, and there was a teacher there that was a big believer in what I was doing. And he was like, hey, he talked to like three kids at the time, and he was like, hey, I know you guys don't like cops, but this brother is good, and he'll help lead you in the right path. One of the kids was a boy named Jesus. He was actually roughed up by police officers and stuff like that. So at the time, he had a huge disdain for law enforcement. There was another boy named Roberto. Roberto also, he did not have a lot of trust in the cops. Another boy was Aaron. So they talked with me. We went on trips and stuff like that. And they got to know me as a person and not just as the cop. And they knew that when it was time to handle business, I had to handle business. But they also saw how I acted. There was one time where we had a sergeant that was a little more heavy-handed than he needed to be. And there was a street party going on. So he wanted to close the party down. And they saw me in the community, and they were like, hey, that's Burgess. So they ran up to me, and I was like, look, he is not trying to have this party right now. Take everybody and put them on the sidewalk so that you can continue your party. At first, the parents were a little skeptical, like, well, is he gonna hurt these boys? But then when they saw that the boys trusted me, they talked to me, and we had a good rapport.
Yeah.
The boys talked to the rest of the community. They talked to them. They put everything on the sidewalk, and the party was able to continue. So sometimes you need that person. They had that trust in me.
Absolutely.
They talked to me, and they had faith in me, and that's why we had that relationship. And I got to watch these boys grow. At the time, they were in junior high, going into high school, and now they're grown men with family of their own. So I was able to go to Jesus's graduation, his college graduation, and I was really proud because I'm like, I was there. I was at their high school graduation, and even to this day, they still talk to the community, and they were like, listen, you might not like a lot of cops. We don't like a lot of cops, but at least you can trust that one.
Yeah.
And that means something to me.
Absolutely.
So that's why I do it. When I became a cop, I didn't like cops. I hated cops, to be honest. But I felt if I became one, at least there'd be one good one out there.
All right.
As I became a cop, I realized that there are a lot of good ones out there.
Yeah.
The media does shine a bad light on, and they kind of like say that all cops are bad. But I would say, in my experience as being a cop, there are a lot of good ones out there. The bad ones tarnish it. And it's the same thing with the Black community. The few don't speak for the many.
Yeah.
So just because there are a few minorities that do crimes, we can't say that every minority is bad. And the same thing, vice versa. We can't say that every person that has taken this profession is bad. And it's by talking to like a cop that's doing what I'm trying to do that we can make things better, we can improve things.
Absolutely.
And that's why I encourage minorities to, one, become cops, because in my book, Defining Moment, the reason why Ebony, one of the main characters, is a cop is because of her twin brother was killed by the cops. So she wanted to stop negative policies in the police department that were affecting her neighborhood. So she wanted to be part of that change. So I encourage youth, all types of minorities to go into the department to be part of that change. We say that we don't like a lot of white officers coming into our neighborhood when they don't know the neighborhood and they don't know how to handle minorities. Then we need to be in our own communities then.
Yes.
We also complain about politicians and saying that they're out of touch and that they don't like they don't like to do things that affect minorities positively, then we need to become politicians.
Yes, yes.
So these are all things that we could complain and we could talk about and we can protest in the street and yell, but it's until we make these little slight changes that things will actually change. You have to be a part of it.
Absolutely.
So that's why I encourage people to become politicians. I encourage them to be lawyers. I encourage them to be law enforcement.
Wow. I love that. That's powerful because as I said earlier, I have this real passion for mothers and whatnot. And because I do have a son who's incarcerated and serving an asinine sentence. And I say that every chance I get because he is serving 50 years for assault. And I know people who have murdered people that didn't get 50 years. But when I want to talk about to other people about some changes that need to be made, because I'm not a part of the whine and complain, just moaning, groaning, whatever committee. That's not who I am. I like to acknowledge an issue, address an issue, and then activate sustainable changes. And so I get a lot of mothers who have sons that are incarcerated, even daughters that are incarcerated, and they're always coming to me complaining about, what's going on in the system and what's going on in specific prisons. And, the whole criminal justice system is a joke and so forth and so on. But then I say, okay, let's get together and address a specific issue and see where we need to go to get assistance with this. And nothing, you don't get any response. And so I'm like you, I just feel like if we're going to complain about it, if we're going to acknowledge that there's something wrong, then we need to do all we can do to try to make change, because just whining about it is not fixing anything.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to let you go. I've really enjoyed this conversation, but is there anything else that you'd like to share? Do you have anything new on the horizon other than your book that you're working on? Anything, words of encouragement, positive affirmations, or anything that you'd like to share before you leave?
I'm trying to make Defining Moments into a movie. Currently, I won 3 awards for the screenplay. So I'm really pushing for that right now.
Yes.
Trying to perfect that so that it could be picked up by a major studio. So that's what I'm focused on now. That and my novel, Mothers, that I'm working on.
Yeah, I definitely want to keep my eyes open for that because I can relate to that. And again, I want to thank you for joining me. I have really, really been inspired by you tonight. And I don't know if you can see me or not, writing things down, taking notes, because, there's so many things that I think that we can do to make things better, even for our young people. And some of the things that you talked about really motivated me to do some things differently. And even as an author, I am going to take that suggestion and I'm going to go sit outside and listen to some conversations. Because I wrote a book, as a matter of fact, I have the book right here. It's called Help, I Don't Like Myself. And I did this way back in 2012, okay? Basically what it is my experience with being diagnosed with depression and anxiety disorder, and the conflict between the mental health diagnosis and my faith, because I was raised in a very strict Christian home, and everything that was wrong with you was the devil, that kind of thing. And so you don't want to talk about it because you don't want people thinking you had the devil in you because you were depressed or whatever. And so I decided years ago that I wanted to turn this into a novel. And I started a manuscript, and that's it. I still have the manuscript, but I'm not doing anything with it. So you inspired me to pull it out the file and get to work.
I'll tell you, my process is all over the place. Like I'll show you right now. So like I write things everywhere. So I have different notebooks. I have different
Yeah.
notebooks with stuff like that I write. I do voice memos. I have my phone here, so like I do all types of voice memos if I'm in the car. I do little notes here and there. So when I get home, I type it out. I'm a big believer in Google Docs because I had a lot of lost material with Word, like it wasn't saving, or when it again I would lose stuff that I typed out.
Okay.
But I'm a big believer in Google Docs because as long as you're online, it'll save it.
Okay.
So I do that all the time. I could do that on multiple devices, and that's the best way to get it done. Because like if you're like driving and you're like, oh man, I just thought of something, and or you're walking around and you see something, you're like, oh that'd be great for the book. Like then you can like write it down and you can finish your book that way. But always have like a little notebook with you, your phone, and get it out.
Yeah, that's
Like,
me because like I
is,
have notes, sticky pads. I have note text stuff all over the place. When something comes to me, I like jot it down, and then I have to like grab up all my little pieces of paper and put it together in a notebook. I'm like, oh my God, this is taking forever, but I'm gonna get it done.
in my head, like I have everything pretty much mapped out, but I don't really know until like sometimes I'm like, dang, I got writer's block, but you write and it's not official until it's published. So you could always change it. So I always say, write, and then you could always weed it out. And I tell you, I've been working on this new book, I would say close to about 3 years now, like to be honest. And it's the importance of the message of this book that I wanted to really touch on, hit on all cylinders. So with that, I need the right type of dialogue. I need to make sure the right points are hit. So that's how I approach it right now, like how I approach my writing.
Good. All right, well, I'm gonna get it done. I'll keep you updated.
All right.
And then it didn't help that I did send it to someone one time. I sent what I had written, like just to kind of get an idea if they could figure out what it was I was trying. What is the word I'm looking for? What my storyline was about. And they commented, I have no idea what this book is going to be about. Oh my God, like then that just made me say, ooh, well, I better go back and start all over again.
No, sometimes you just got to retool. So like, you know what you want, what you're trying to say. Sometimes you just need to adjust it so that it flows better. So you still know the direction where you want to go, but you just have to retool it.
Yes, sir. All right, well, we're going to get it done. And I'm going to keep
That's right.
posted.
There you go.
Yes.
The power of positivity.
That's right. That's right. Again, I thank you so much for spending time with me this evening. And anytime you want to come back, you're more than welcome. I was telling someone about when I first got this idea for wanting to do a talk show. I was hesitant. Well, I was excited at first, but then I was hesitant because I'm like, okay, I don't have all of the equipment that I see other people using. I don't have nice banners. This up here is coming down because as you heard me, you see me talking about on Facebook, this is my 60th birthday month.
There you go.
I'm just like gonna go all the way to midnight with these things up. But I didn't have banners. I don't have like certain lights and this, that, and other. So I kept saying, I'm gonna wait. And my son was like, okay, first of all, if people tune in to talk with you, they're not looking for banners and not looking for lights. They're looking for content. And so you need to have conversations that mean something and stop worrying about banners and lights. So then I said, okay, I'll get started. And so far, I've really enjoyed what I'm doing. And I appreciate you coming to my little talk show. One of my daughters said, "You
Always.
started from the bottom, now you're here." So
You should start a YouTube channel.
I have one.
Oh, okay.
As a
Yeah.
matter of fact, I need you to subscribe to it.
Okay. I'll do it right now.
But I'm going to upload this to YouTube, actually.
Okay.
And then I share it to Facebook. And when I tag you in it, then you can go ahead and subscribe to my channel.
You got it.
Thank you. I appreciate you so much.
No problem. Anytime you want me on, I'll be on.
I appreciate it. You have a great evening.
You too.
Okay. Bye-bye.